People want it. People dream about it. It can be different to every individual. It can complete us, or it can destroy us. And it can change the world. People call it treasure. The sound of wind blowing from the horizon, the warmth of the sun hitting the ocean waves, the vibration of sand beating like the hearts of youth. We're at the starting point of this long journey. The freezing winds may make us shiver, the heat of the sun may make us thirsty, the vibrations of the sand may swallow us, but we'll never stop. Gold, eternal life, honor, love, fame. It doesn't matter what you dream for. So let me ask you, what is your treasure? Will you join us?
What's the point of keeping these dreams when we have to give up on things that matter? Is it that worth of, even when I have to let go of myself? Whatever the answer is, it's your own decision.
ATEEZ is an 8-member boy group that debuted in 2018 under the company KQ Entertainment. Ever since they debuted, their music videos have been telling a vague but consistent storyline which follows the journey of the boys within a mysterious pirate-themed universe. Their latest album expanded on this story by telling the origin story of ATEEZ, who turned out to be a group of normal teenagers struggling with their personal lives. To understand how these seemingly separate stories link into one, we first need to look into the themes and patterns in ATEEZ's music, which will later help guide us through the meaning of their songs. Thematics. ATEEZ's story, as we know it now, has two visible major inspirations: the movie Inception by Christopher Nolan, as well as the classic story of Peter Pan. We will later examine further the exact implication of these references, but to remain focused on the thematic aspect for now, we can find similar thematics between these works and the discography of ATEEZ. Firstly, the notion of dream, which might be the most mentioned word in all of ATEEZ's discography. Within their story, dreams have a double meaning. They can be both referring to the mental state of dreaming at night, or to the dream which is one's goal in life. We'll see that those two interpretations of the world play an important part in ATEEZ's story. Time. Time is what shapes the world around ATEEZ, as well as the members themselves. Attached to this theme, there's the anticipation of change and growing up. Time is both something that holds a negative meaning as the change it brings is feared, but also needed to progress. It's worth noting that time is rarely linear in ATEEZ's story. Identity. Establishing one's identity and trying to understand who you are. Those are some of the goals ATEEZ are pursuing through their journey. This thematic is heavily linked to the passing of time, as it influences one's identity both literally and figuratively in their universe. Treasure. The treasure is what one wants to obtain. It can be many different things and doesn't have to be a physical object. The treasure is very often associated with light, whether it is through a place or a person. This light is something ATEEZ are seeking and find comfort in, while the dark holds a more ambiguous role. Fire, heat. Contrary to what their pirate theme suggests, the element which is given the most importance through the story of ATEEZ is not water, but fire. Just like the dark, fire holds an ambiguous meaning as it's both a destructive force, but also one which brings change. Traditionally, fire is associated with rebirth as well as initiation rites. Through these themes, we can start seeing an overall idea between ATEEZ's thematics. The struggles of youth, during which we have to define ourselves as we pursue the things that we want. But to see how ATEEZ expresses those themes in their story, we have to start with the beginning. Diary Film. Before the release of their latest album Fever Part 1, KQ Entertainment released a 16-minute-long short movie named Diary Film. This short movie presents each of the ATEEZ members as normal high school boys, living through the struggles they each face and finding comfort in their friendship with each other. In this story, they find a safe place away from the hardships of the world in the warehouse they hang out at, but they eventually have to part as they grow up. In the diary version of Fever Part 1, you can obtain a lore booklet which offers additional story bits told from the boys' perspective. This is our own place, a space where our dreams came together, our hideout, our own world, separating us from the adult world. This book reveals that even though they found happiness in each other, their dreams of staying together became an obstacle for them to grow up and progress. On a summer day, we decided to go our separate ways. All that because our dreams of being together had become like shackles that hold us down. As they drew apart and grew up, they slowly began to forget each other. But among them, there was one that couldn't get over this separation. Hongjoong was the first one to hang out at the hideout, where he was apparently living alone due to some family issues. My family is scattered around, and here I am with my new family I made while living alone. I've met my fellow members by doing music together in our little hideout. Just thinking about them warms my heart. I really hope we can achieve our dreams together. My family, the music I love, and our dreams, we must keep them. Because he already saw his biological family drift away from him, Hongjoong then wasn't able to accept that he would have to part with the newfound family he saw in his friends. Even though I lost my dreams and family again, there was nothing I could do. Everyone left, and here I am, alone again. It's as Hongjoong finds himself languishing over the loss of his friends that a dark figure appears in front of him and hands an hourglass to him. The man in black calls it the Chroma, and this object will be a key in the story as it seems to have the ability to influence both the time and space. Get rid of the idea that the world you see is everything. There are many dimensions and many realities in this world. The Chroma, the key to connecting the world. When Hongjoong looks at the Chroma in Diary Film, the reality seems to wrap and turn upside down around him. So it not only has the ability to turn back time, but to change the world you are in. This fits well with the theory of 15 Kim, which claims that in ATEEZ's universe, the passing of time has an impact on the world you find yourself in. When Hongjoong is given the Chroma, he has one objective: gathering his fond family back. But the real world is too harsh for them to be together, so it takes them to a world of dreams the Chroma can open the door to, the new world as it's called in this booklet. This decision isn't taken by Hongjoong on his own, however. In the diary version of Fever Part 1, you can find extra bits of story from each of the members' point of view, hidden in the AR photo cards. Most of the cards imply that the boys were aware that they were living to the world of dreams. Hyosangs, specifically, indicate that it was their choice as a group. So I love you and Mother. I wasn't happy at all in the world you and Mother were in. With my friends, I am not going to the place that I chose. The other members of ATEEZ are sick or scared of the world they currently live in, and so they decide to entrust themselves with Hongjoong, who holds the power of the Chroma. And because of the Chroma lying in front of my eyes when I woke up from my dreams, I was able to protect the members. So it was difficult and lonely at times, I was able to endure these days thanks to our members. Assuming ATEEZ's story is inspired by the movie Inception, it would make sense that the members are taken to Hongjoong's dream space, which then explains why he's the only one fully conscious in the new world. and the one able to protect them. Before we get to the New World story, we need to establish 3 theories that are critical to understand it. 1. Eunjung's character within the story is filling the role of Peter Pan. While Peter Pan's character was made more kids-friendly in the Disney adaptation, the original character from the book and the play is a rather ambiguous one. Peter is a cocky, violent individual driven by the selfish desire not to grow up as to escape the responsibilities of the adult world. He's also quite possessive and authoritarian towards the Lost Boys, but hides underneath a melancholic personality who yearns to be loved and cared for. Those characteristics help understand Eunjung's characterization within ATEEZ's story, as well as the dynamic he has with the rest of the members. It's worth noting that there are only 6 Lost Boys in the story, meaning one of the members could be playing the role of either Wendy or Tinkerbell. My suppositions fall on Songhua for several reasons, which will play a role much later on in this analysis. 2. The New World is based on the dream of the movie Inception, meaning several people are linked to a single person's subconscious, which would be Eunjung's in this case. In ATEEZ's story, the creation and journey to the New World seems to be ordered by the Chromer, which could be the equivalent to the machine used to visit dreams in the movie. In Inception's dream, the world can be changed by the mental state of those who inhabit it, which can be both intentional or not. 3. The New World is a time loop based on the Mobius ribbon. In their video, 15 Kim suspects the passing of time defines the space you find yourself at in the Treasureverse. This explains why the original ATEEZ seems stuck in the past, while ALATEEZ have many more modern equipment with them. The Mobius ribbon is a symbol of infinity, which works in a way that when you arrive at the opposite end of where you've started, you find yourself upside down. At the end of the story told by Treasure Era, ATEEZ implies that the New World's timeline is looped into infinity, and Mingi even mentions the Mobius in Good Little Boy. Now that we've established those key points, we can look into ATEEZ's journey within the New World, starting with what comes before the beginning.
Coming to ya, I won't give up, everybody say yeah.
The beginning of the dream, Treasure Episode 2. Although Treasure Episode 1 is ATEEZ's debut album, we know from the scene at the end of the Say My Name music video that Treasure Episode 2 takes place before the event of Treasure, which is why we'll start recounting the story of Treasure Era with this album. Treasure Episode 2, 0 to 1 tells the story of the formation of ATEEZ within the New World, before they started their journey in Treasure and Pirate King. For this reason, I believe Treasure Episode 2 doesn't happen within the closed time loop of the New World. Rather than this, Treasure Episode 2 sits right in between the real world and the New World as a state of transition between the two. This explains why in the music video of Say My Name, ATEEZ are wandering in an empty museum devoid of anything but a single picture. This picture represents a desert and is what leads them to the place where they're actually beginning their journey later on. Say My Name is a song about ATEEZ boldly asserting their own identity and finding strength in each other and their fans. Through the law's lenses, however, its meaning gets a bit trickier. In Peter Pan, stepping in the Neverland seems to cause the loss of two things: the perception of time and the memories of your past. When Wendy and her brothers arrive to Neverland, they slowly start losing sight of who they used to be and begin to write down facts about themselves in case they forget them.
What did disturb her at times was that John remembered his parents vaguely only, as people he had once known. These things scared her a little, and she tried to fix the old life in their minds by setting them examination papers on it as like as possible to the ones she used to do at school. They were the most ordinary questions. What was the color of Mother's eyes? Which was taller, father or mother?
The new world which Eunjung takes the members to appears to have similar effect on them as the lyrics imply. ATEEZ's past lives are slipping away from their memory, and we can see them in the music video surrounded by papers and name tags in a way that's reminiscent of the scene from the Peter Pan book. This also makes sense, as dreams always lack a beginning. You can never remember how they started. Eunjung, the only member who is fully aware of the situation, even encourages the member to throw away their old selves and untrust themselves to him as he now becomes their captain. He will reaffirm his captain persona through the choreography and lyrics of their songs several times after that. It's likely that he took it on because he had the responsibility to protect and lead the members through the new world. It's also reminiscent of Peter Pan's role, as Peter and the other boys refer to him as a captain in the book.
But Peter, oh, that is Captain Pan.
At your service, madam.
Another symbol that helps identifying Eunjung's roles as Peter Pan is his association with the moon, which is commonly used in the representation of the famous Disney character. In Treasure, the opening shot shows Eunjung looking up at the moon, and in Say My Name, the lyrics imply that the moon is what gathers them together. In fact, this scene perfectly mirrors the opening scene of Peter Pan's story. Rather than being Eunjung himself, I believe the moon here is a symbol of his subconscious. If ATEEZ are in Eunjung's dream, then the moon is a manifestation of his will within it. So when the members answer the moon's call, they're actually reacting to the will of Eunjung to gather them again and keep them close together. This way, they shred away their old lives and are born again. But ATEEZ aren't the only ones gathering during episode 2. Indeed, as ATEEZ are drawn together by the moon in Say My Name, the very first song of this album introduces instead a major figure in their story. 8 men dressed in black, wearing familiar faces and strange masks. They are Allah ATEEZ. Allah. It's difficult to establish a certain explanation for Allah ATEEZ's existence. Their names and faces are the same as the ones of ATEEZ, and their song indicates that they are another side of ATEEZ. Just like Eunjung called for ATEEZ with an old trumpet, Allah Eunjung called for his own with a megaphone to which the same flag is hung. This could symbolize that Allah ATEEZ come from the future of the new world, while ATEEZ are in the past. Following the logic of the Mobius stripe, ATEEZ and Allah ATEEZ's beginning point is the same, but on different sides of the stripe. This explains why the two groups occupy the same space but not the same time. It also means that Allah ATEEZ is the inverted version of ATEEZ, as they start from the opposite side of the stripe. For this reason, it would be wrong to assume that Allah ATEEZ's nature is evil. According to Eunjung in the behind video for episode 2 photoshoot, Allah ATEEZ are standing in ATEEZ's way. In the movie Inception by Christopher Nolan, from which we know now ATEEZ's lore is inspired from, the subconscious of a person can hurt those who wander in their dreams. There is a possibility that ALATEEZ are either Hongjoong's subconscious rejecting the other members, or simply the will of the members to wake up from the dreams they are locked in. I'd personally lean towards the second option, as Allah Allah means hearts awakened, live alive, further indicating that their goal is to wake ATEEZ up. Besides, in Inception, one of the ways to wake up from a dream is to die, and we can see ALATEEZ killing themselves at the end of the performance video. The somber appearance of the group could also evoke Peter Pan's shadow, which has a will of its own and represents the attachment the boy has left to the real world. The true nature of ALATEEZ remains a mystery, however. In the diary film, it was Allah Hongjoong who originally gave the chroma to Hongjoong, which questions not only his objectives, but relation to the new world. In the music video for Thanks, which was released recently, we seem to get to see ALATEEZ's origins within the new world, with visuals that were similar to those of Treasure and Illusion. Are ALATEEZ people of their own, or are they just a reflection of ATEEZ? Can they only exist within the world of dreams? Because it's hard to draw conclusions on this matter for now, we'll move on only with these three ideas. ALATEEZ's starting point is the same as the one of ATEEZ, but it's further in time and at their opposite. ALATEEZ aren't evil, but they're an hindrance to ATEEZ. Their goal is likely to wake them up. The lyrics of Allah Allah heavily associate them to fire and heat, which are in ATEEZ's lore a symbol of rebirth and change. Keep those in mind as they will become relevant again later, and let's go back to our story's protagonists. After Allah Allah and Say My Name comes 3 more songs, which I believe serve the purpose of giving us further insight on the members' feeling as they're walking in the new world. Desire. Desire is a song about selfishly desiring to have someone, even though that desire is dangerous to you or them. The person that is desired is also referred to as treasure that has to be reached at a certain place, an idea that will come up again in the future. I believe this song could mirror Hongjoong's feeling as he takes the member to the new world. He's acting selfishly for taking them away from their lives due to his own loneliness, and is aware that it could potentially hurt them. These feelings are expressed in his final verse.
내 맘만큼 내 비오는 새빨간 물꽃 지고 피워 터지고 말까 내 두 눈에 가득 desire 내 마음에 가득 desire 그 떨림의 끝은 누구도 예측할 수 없기에 I love my desire.
We can also note that in the choreo for this specific part, Hongjoong starts off by being surrounded by the members, before later on making them fall to the floor. Together with the lyrics, it suggests that Hongjoong could eventually bring the members to their demise himself. Light and Promise. Light and Promise are 2 softer songs which explore the feelings ATEEZ have for each other at the beginning of this long journey. Both start off by indicating the fall of the night has come, which can also symbolize the moment one falls asleep and thus starts dreaming. Light is a sweet song about finding hope and comfort in someone's existence, and hoping for their presence by your side. Here, the light is what a person can become for another, just like the treasure was in Desire. In the meantime, Hongjoong's lines specifically touch on his wish not to let the members leave the new world.
멈추고 싶잖아 이게 꿈꾸던 fantasy 숨 쉴 수가 없어 이곳에 눈을 내리니 Take a deep breath 새로운 dimensional trap
Promise reads like an answer to light. The song is a vow to stay by someone's side no matter what, and to become the light that will give them hope.
오래오래 향한 시린 바람 담아가 줄 순 없어도 화나 꼭 약속 항상 하나들과 내 온기가 너에게 느껴질 수 있게 해가 뜰 때쯤 어깨도 멀어 빛을 보여줄게 No one take you down Don't worry I'll be there
Promise is also a song showing their determination to reach a certain place together, which I believe is where they hope to be free from the struggles of the real world. This place will later be defined as a utopia in episode 3. Interestingly, in the diary book, Hongjoong mentions promises that he had made with the other members. We can assume that the promise made in this song reflects one that they remember from their real lives. One that they couldn't keep back then, but will hold on in the new world. If Promise and Light mirror each other, we could interpret these songs as Light being a reflection of Hongjoong's feelings, his doubt and the yearning he feels towards his friend, while Promise is the member's answer to these feelings. Promise's music video starts off with all 7 of them surrounding their leader, which illustrates their will to stay with him and honor their vow. Holding on each other and longing for a better world, ATEEZ are now walking towards the actual beginning of their journey, with only the shadows of their other selves in their way.